20% of people who get into sales realize that this is a great opportunity, that if you sell really well, you can earn more than a doctor or a lawyer or even a politician. You can make a wonderful living in selling, and you can fulfill all of your dreams. In the Western world, 5% of millionaires are salespeople who have sold all their lives for another company, but they sold a lot and they earned a lot and they invested the money carefully. So it's possible for you to achieve all your dreams in this field if you become good in selling. So I got into sales, and the only job I could get was knocking on doors, cold calling from door to door. And I had no training and no experience. The only thing I could think of was to work hard. I worked 30 days before I made my first sale. This is not a good way to live, I can tell you that. I was sleeping on the floor of a friend's apartment. I had one change of clothes. I would have to wash out my shirt in the sink at night. I had one tie which came off and clicked back on, and one pair of shoes which were too big for me. So when I walked, it was like walking with swim fins. And after about 6 months of knocking on doors and earning just enough to stay alive, I noticed that there was one man in my company who was earning 10 times as much as anyone else. And he wasn't even working very hard. He would start work at 9 or 9:30. He would go out, or a client would come into the office, or he would go out and visit a client. He would have lunch with another prospective customer. He would make sales in the afternoon, and he would quit at 4:30 or 5. And he went to beautiful restaurants, and he had nice vacations. He had a beautiful apartment, and he had a pocket full of money, and he had no financial problems. And he was selling the same product that I was selling out of the same office at the same price to the same people under the same conditions. So I did something, about 6 months later, I did something that changed my life. I still recall this changed my life. In your lifetime, by the way, you have experiences, and it's usually an idea or a concept. Something happens and your life goes in a different direction. And this was the transforming moment for me. I took a deep breath and I went and I asked him, what are you doing differently from me? Why are you making so many sales? And he said, well, show me your sales presentation and I'll critique it for you. I said, my what? He said, your sales presentation. I said, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. Because I didn't have a sales presentation. I was doing what I call the blah, blah sell. I would find a prospect and go blah, 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 until they would start looking at their watch and looking away, and say, thank you very much for coming in. Let me think about it. Call me back next year, maybe, or leave me some information. And I would go from place to place and get the same response. He said, no. He said, there's a process, a logical process of selling. And the process has 7 steps. And the first step is to prospect and to speak to the right people. The second is to build rapport and trust with those people. The third is to ask them questions and identify their needs accurately. The fourth step is to make a presentation and show them your product. The fifth step is to answer their objections. The sixth step is to close the sale. And the seventh step is to get resales and referrals. Instead of going out and talking, I went out and asked questions, and my sales went up. And I remember people treated me differently when I asked them questions as opposed to talking. And so I began to ask more and better questions. Then I began to read on sales, and I read everything I could find. And then I would listen to audio programs, and then I would actually started going to sales seminars. And I did 2 things which really had a profound effect on my career. Number one is when I heard a new thing, I would immediately try it out. I noticed that many other people heard the same things, but they took no action. They wouldn't take any action at all. Whereas when I heard something new, I would run out and I would try it out quickly. Number 2 thing that I learned is that nothing works. Even the best ideas don't work. At least they don't work the first time. And sometimes they don't work the first 5 times or the first 10 times. So I made a resolution that if I heard a good idea, I would try it 5 or 10 times before I pass judgment. I'm going to give you a simple word that you can use for the rest of your career, which will double your income. And the word is how. Say how. Okay. From now on, whenever you have a goal, the only question you ask is how. Whenever you have a problem to solve, the only question you ask is how. If you have an obstacle to overcome, the only question you ask is how. Now, the wonderful thing about the word how is that it triggers ideas, and the ideas are all for actions that you can take immediately. And when you take those ideas, you start to get feedback, which enables you to correct your course and take even better steps to achieve your goals. So the average person, when they have a problem, complains and blames other people about the problem. Top people, when they have a problem or goal, they simply say, how can I achieve this goal? And they try this, and they try that, and they try something else, but it never occurs to them that they will not eventually be successful. So they think about what they want and how to get it most of the time. But what we found is people in the top 10% in every field think in terms of their hourly rate. How much I earn each hour. Now, this change in thinking changes your entire life. I know because I've taught this principle to thousands of people who literally transformed their lives and their incomes almost overnight. If you think in terms of how much you earn in a week or a month, well, then you have a natural tendency to waste time during the day. Monday is a slow day. You're recovering from the weekend. Tuesday, you start to work. Wednesday, the week is almost over. Thursday, you start to slow down. And now it's Friday. Who gets anything done on Friday? We'll do it on Monday. And so people's ability to produce drops. And since 80% of the population thinks like this, if you're not careful, you'll find you are surrounded by people who waste time. The biggest time wasters in the world are other people who want to waste your time. And the way that they waste your time is by talking. Talk. No work, just talk. Or play on the computer, or phone home, check the movies, go shopping, drink coffee, start late, leave early, long lunch hours. How am I doing so far? You start thinking in terms of your hourly rate, it transforms your life. And what we have found, and we talked about this morning, is that in terms of your hourly rate, there are only 3 things that you do that account for 90% of your income. In every field, it's always the same. There's only 3 things. When you think of your hourly rate, you have to think of what we call the law of 3. What are the 3 things that you do that pay you the highest hourly rate, that pay you the highest potential income? And they are prospecting, presenting, and closing the sale. Finding new people to talk to, talking to those new people, and getting them to take action.